Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Jake Williams Show. I, of course, am your host, Jake Williams. I noticed recently my upload schedule has been kind of finicky, and I totally understand that. If you're upset by that, I'm sorry. That's all I can say, really. I've been doing a lot of work for other shows on Loud and Opinionated. Well, just Loud and Opinionated itself, whether it be the website, whether it be the underachievers, whether it be Loud Sports. Believe it or not, looking ahead, I thought that June wouldn't be that hectic of a month for me, but I totally forgot to take into account that we're talking about E3 just happened, all that stuff, and then the Stanley Cup Finals, the NBA Finals. It's all just kind of come at me very hard, and now on top of that, I was like, oh, I want to do a thing for my dad for Father's Day, and then I was like, well, I still haven't got this episode out. So it's been a very hectic thing, but it's been a labor of love. I'm not going to tell you that it hasn't, and I am very grateful that I am able to do this every week, do all these shows, make all this content for you. It's amazing for me, and on top of that, we just announced that Beach Cops Lock and Load is coming to 402 Films, so I got a lot on my plate. So I'm just telling you that's why the traffic has been a little slow on the Jake Williams Show. So don't worry, it's going to pick back up again. Trust me. My life has slowed down a little bit so that I can keep going and doing this. So what are we talking about today? Now, I know that if you follow me on social media, you're probably sick and tired of me talking about video games and E3 this past week, but I definitely want to talk about something a little bit different than just E3 itself. I'm not going to talk about that. I've done that enough. I did that. If you want that Underachievers Games on YouTube and social media and the Underachievers podcast, go listen to that stuff and those things if you really want to know what I feel about those. No, today I want to talk about something as a whole. And I want to talk about a very particular brand that I have been a part of that I've owned, I guess. I'm looking at my entertainment system right now. I have a 360 and an Xbox One, and I also have a PS4. So, just to say that I'm not a fanboy, I have other devices. What I was going to say is Sony was not at E3 this year, so that meant that all of the attention was going to be on Xbox, and this was really their time to dominate the market, dominate the narrative, and really drive it home. Of course, Nintendo had a Nintendo Direct and all that, but Microsoft doesn't really look at Nintendo as a competitor necessarily. They look at them more as a partner to take down the new king on the throne, which has been Sony, because the PS4 has been selling like hotcakes. I think it's on pace to be the best-selling console of all time, and rightfully so. I think Sony has done an amazing job this generation. They have a ton of great exclusive games to their brand, and I think they've done a lot of great things. But I think the legacy of the PS4 is really going to map out something extraordinary for Microsoft and the Xbox brand. And you might be thinking, well, how can Sony and PlayStation be the legacy of Xbox and even Nintendo at this point? Well, what I want to talk about today is the fact that when they brought, and we've talked about it before, but 2013 was a very, very bad year for fans of Xbox and the brand itself, because 2013 was the changing of the guard. It was time to start a new generation, so Sony had already announced the PS4 in February of 2013, so we get to May of 2013, and now it's time for Microsoft to finally show off the Xbox, the new one, which, we had Infinite, Xbox 720, all these funny names for it. Then we come out with the Xbox One. So not a great start with the title, but their focus was just not what Xbox gamers wanted and just fans of Xbox. When you tell me this is what I'm going to present to you with an Xbox, your mind does not go to, oh, it's going to be an entertainment. It's the reason it's called Xbox One is because all of it's all in one place. You can watch live TV here, because why would I want to just have a cable provider when I can watch live TV on my gaming console. It continued to make horrible decisions with focusing on that. And then when they're later at E3, when they showed off, they focus on sports games and this. And while the technology looks great, there's a time and place for that. I'm someone that plays Madden. I'm someone that plays sports games. I obviously like sports. I have a freaking sports podcast. So, even I was saying this is not the time. I don't care about this. I don't watch these events or care about these things for sports games. That's not what I'm here for. I want to know what you have for exclusives. What do we have for Gears of War or Halo or Forza or whatever? And we joke up, and that's the thing that, well, I'll get to that in a little bit, but that's the thing that drives me crazy about those franchises. Everybody bitches and moans that that's all they talk about, but that's the only things people play anymore when it comes to first-party Xbox exclusives. So, anyway, back to what I was saying. So they show all these things, and this is not good for Xbox because PlayStation knocked it out of the park. They realized that they didn't win the last generation where 360 beat the PS3, which I will say the PS3 had a great comeback. But it was almost like Microsoft didn't learn anything from what Sony did the past generation and started to do decisions like that, similar decisions. And it's the idea that when you win a generation, you kind of get a little cocky, right? And you kind of make decisions where it doesn't matter. We've got the built-in fan base. These guys are going to come with us. We've got Halo. We've got our brands. We've got our games. No problem. Xbox obviously had that bit of arrogance, and I think that burned them horribly. A lot of people jumped ship and went to PlayStation. We make these jokes about fanboys and brand loyalty. Those exist. There are absolutely Sony ponies and Xbots, and they exist. I was one of them. I had a PS3, and then my next console was I had a PS2, and then my next console was a PS3. I was a Sony guy. What swung me the other way to be more about Xbox was how Xbox focused games in a different way, where PlayStation was all about single-player experiences and great narratives. I mean, the God of War games that I loved, and they're just Uncharted, The Last of Us. You have these games that are narrative-driven, single-player focus-oriented games. Whereas Xbox, they knew they had the better infrastructure and in terms of Xbox Live. With Xbox Live Gold, you were paying for that every month, and you were paying for a quality service. By making people pay for it, they had better servers, they had better situation than PlayStation Network, which was free. And there was a whole blackout in 2011 where the PlayStation Network wasn't even usable for months. And Xbox, and in my opinion, now I have both PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live Gold because I'm that privileged. I have both services, and honestly, I feel like Xbox Live is the better service. Would that be because I have more friends on Xbox? Yeah, that could be a factor. But what drew me to Xbox was that accessibility of being able to play games with my friends. I mean, I spent hours upon hours, not even on my own 360, by the way, but spending hours and hours and hours playing Halo with my friends and having those shared experiences. And so when they come out and they don't really show that off, and they show about how it's all about all these other things, and that's not what made Xbox great. So obviously Sony and the PS4 dominated this narrative and dominated this generation. There's no doubting that Xbox got their ass kicked. But what it has done with bringing in Phil Spencer and what Xbox has done to repair people's good faith in the brand, I think needs to be applauded. And I'm not saying that it isn't, but it is damn impressive what Xbox has done and what Microsoft has done with this brand to bring people back and restore people's faith. As someone who owns both consoles, again, I'm privileged, but I remember buying the Xbox One because my friends were on Xbox One, and there were definitely times while having that console, I felt I made a huge mistake. Because I look at what the PS4 is able to do with their exclusives and their first-party studios. I've mentioned them with what they were able to do with Uncharted and Spider-Man most recently. And, well, granted, I get to play that now, so that's not a good example. But what they did with Uncharted and The Last of Us and God of War and all these other great series that they own, Ratchet and Clank, things like that. I felt like Xbox wasn't doing enough. And then you bring along Phil Spencer, who completely changes the tone. And this is, I told you I'd get there. This is the main topic of my discussion of what Xbox is doing. Xbox knows that they've lost, so they're planning for the future, and they're building a future that I want to be a part of. When they announced a couple of years ago, the first iteration of the Underachievers, we talked about Xbox Game Pass. Now, Sony had already done this before. They did this with PlayStation Now. It was a subscription service, much like Game Pass is now. But the difference is Sony made you stream the games. So you could play old PS3 games, PS2 games. You can play them as long as you have an internet connection. You can play them with PlayStation Now. You pay, I think it's $20 a month is what you pay for that. Which, again, baffles me that they couldn't even do anything backwards compatible, but I digress. When Xbox says, no, we do it by downloading. You download the game into your hard drive. You have it while you have the subscription. There's a rotating catalog. It's Netflix for games. I said, that sounds great, and let's see where this goes. Of course, Sparks, he was very... I'm with him on this. We're not really early adopters. I like to see where the product can go, not where it starts, because it's not always great when it starts. We all know that in gaming, in that industry, things get better as time goes along because they learn how to perfect them and they learn how to do the right thing. And of course, price drops because we're cheap bastards, all that jazz. So to see the Game Pass work that way, where it's like, no, we don't want to focus on you having to stream the game. We don't think the technology is ready for that. We want you to download that. And I thought, great, that's a step in the right direction. We're going to have new games. Granted, the games are going to probably be 2 or 3 year old older games that it would be easy to get the license for and wouldn't cost Microsoft a ton of money. Then we keep going forward, fast forwarding, and we found out more. There's an extra layer to Xbox in their Game Pass. Before I do that, I have to also commend that Xbox One, granted, you don't get every single Xbox 360 game backwards compatible, but they introduced backwards compatibility in 2015. And that surprised a ton of people. And that was them saying, look, we know what you guys want. We are listening. Old Xbox, not guided by Phil Spencer. I'm not even going to mention the other guy's name because I can't even think of it and I don't want to bother to look it up. Pre-Phil Spencer, they would not do that. Every company says, hey, we're listening. We want to listen to you. It's, you are important. We wouldn't have our company if it wasn't for you, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Give us your money. You're a consumer. We want your money kind of thing. But I am seeing something with Phil Spencer that is truly amazing, where I'm seeing an Xbox listen. I am seeing them understand what you want. So in 2015, that was a huge step forward for me, saying, look, we're backwards compatible. And to even top over PlayStation. PlayStation, yeah, it's backwards compatible with PlayStation Now, but you have to stream the game and you essentially have to pay for it again. You have to pay for the subscription service if you want you want that game back, you want that experience back. Where Xbox, they just tell you straight up, look, you've already paid for this game. You own this game. We're not going to make you pay for anything else. We're working on it, and it's going to be backwards compatible, and have fun. Play the games that you want to play. Now, obviously, they didn't do all of the games backwards compatible because they didn't even think that they could do that with the Xbox One. They didn't think that was possible. Essentially, what they had to do, this is going to get a little nerdy for you. Essentially, what they had to do is create an emulator and trick the Xbox One into thinking it was a 360 and playing 360 games. And what's really cool by doing that, you still have all the features you have from your Xbox One. So you could do voice, well, I guess at the time they kind of abandoned the Kinect, but you could do direct capture on your console to upload it to Twitch or Mixer or whatever, which is Mixer's a weird acquisition, and I'm not really going to bother with that. So that's, again, a step in the right direction, and even in 2015. And then 2017, we have the Xbox Game Pass. And then last year's E3, they announced that they've acquired all these studios. They got Ninja Theory. They got Obsidian. They've got, those are just two that come to my mind off the top of my head. But they have all these other studios, they've acquired them. They're under the Xbox banner now, the umbrella. And on top of that, so you have Playground Games, who makes the Forza games. You have the Coalition that makes Gears. You have 343 that makes Halo, and then you have Obsidian. Then you have Ninja Theory. I can't think of it. There's another one that's really big, and Double Fine got added this year. They are going at an approach that is great. They know they're getting beat, so they're adding studios. And what is the big thing everybody says that PlayStation consistently has over Xbox? They have amazing first-party studios that make amazing exclusives. So what does Xbox do? They go out, they get great studios, they bring them in, they say, look, you're going to make games for us. And then to make it even better for the consumer, all these games are available day one at launch on Game Pass. Where, yes, they could lose money, and yes, there's going to be a margin that's going to lose money because of the $60. But what does that say about their service as Game Pass, and what does that say about the goodwill that Xbox has built, that they can say, look, we can charge you $60, and if you don't have Game Pass, you're a moron. If you have an Xbox and you don't have Game Pass, you're an idiot. You're slipping. Get Game Pass. But what they're saying, essentially, we could sell it for $60, and they do. They still sell the game if you don't have Game Pass. But they're saying, we make so much money from Game Pass because you guys have put so much faith in us. We're putting that back into these studios and saying you can have these games at launch day one. Phil Spencer and what his team has done at Xbox has won me over wholeheartedly. Will I probably end up having both the PS5 and the Scarlet, is what they're calling it right now? Probably, because I've been spoiled this past generation that had both consoles, and it's nice to have both, and I will support both companies. But if I have to buy one console, as much as I loved the reboot of God of War, as much as I love Spider-Man, I'm going to go with Xbox. Project Scarlet is going to be my next console because what Xbox has done is unbelievable from this company, from this standpoint, from somebody who loves games, has loved games for a long time. I don't think I've ever seen anything like how Xbox has performed lately, where they've been so amazingly pro-consumer and pro-gamer. It's unbelievable. You could throw throw any adjective that you want at this. What they have been able to do has been enough to restore my faith in them and convince me to stay with them and stay on this journey. And I think that's a huge, important thing to look at. Rather than, oh man, let's suck it up. We lost this round. Let's just move on. Rather than just do that and just continue to shell out, games and sell them the way they want and not do anything for you, the consumer, in any way to award you for buying an Xbox in the first place. They said, no, we're going to double down on the people that are with us, and we're going to build for the future. And make no mistake, what Phil Spencer and Xbox are doing is the future of gaming. The Xbox Game Pass model is the future, and it's pro-gamer, it's pro-consumer, and it's even, I think, pro-developer. Because to me, what you're doing with this is you're saying, I am making enough money with this service and retaining people. Look, I'm going to keep paying for Game Pass. I'm going to, and I'll talk about Game Pass Ultimate here in a second, but I am going to consistently pay for it because it's a great service. They're not only getting Xbox Game Studios games on here, they're getting good quality games. If you have never played Fallout 4, it's there. If you haven't played the Doom reboot, which you should, very much you should, it's there. Wolfenstein reboots, 1 and 2, it's there. Metro Exodus, that came out in February of this year, is there right now to play on Game Pass. It's not just Xbox Game Studios they're bringing in on this. And sure, you're going to have guys that are going to hold out. You're going to have, companies like Rockstar that know they can make money because they release one game every 8 years. It's great. Or, they got that GTA 5 money, the GTA Online money. But even other developers are understanding that this is the future. And I know this might seem that like I'm getting paid from Microsoft to sell you on this. I'm not. But what I saw just from E3 this year, however you may feel about their press conference, I am, for one, am someone who thought it was a really good conference. It should have been great. But because and again, you can have my full thoughts on it on the Underachievers episode about it. But the more I've thought about Xbox, the happier I am, and the more I think this is the right way to go. They're even teaming with Nintendo to put games on the Switch. They put Cuphead on the Switch, which is their property, their IP. I'm recording this on a Wednesday, but the Nintendo Direct for E3, I was going to say yesterday, the Nintendo Direct E3, Banjo-Kazooie is going to be in Smash, which normally that's a game I don't play. I don't really care. That's cool, man. That is them extending the reach to Nintendo. We have a good partnership. Use one of our IPs that we own. I would not be surprised if one of the Battletoads showed up in the next update, the next DLC. It's not just the game studios that they're buying. It is other companies. It is their competition that they are agreeing to work with. Sony is working with them now for the streaming service that they're going to be working on to, topple Google, because Google has Google money, obviously. But they're even working with Sony because they took their licks. They understood, okay, Sony outdid us. PlayStation, the PS4 was just a better marketing, better decisions. They did the right thing. What made them win? Instead of going, well, no, we're going to rest on our laurels. What made them win? They're first-party studios. They're exclusives. Okay, let's go out and buy a bunch of these guys. How else can we win, though? But how can we retain customers? How can we retain people that were loyal enough? I know, maybe not loyal, but people that invested their money in this console. How do we do things different? Well, let's make a bigger, stronger console. Well, PlayStation's doing that. Well, let's make ours better. Let's have the 4K disc drive and our Xbox One S. Let's make that cheaper. Let's institute a subscription service that is $10 a month for hundreds of games. Let's find alternative ways to make things work. Let's put our games on PC. Well, there's no such thing as an exclusive. What do you have? PS4? You have a PC. You can play Xbox games. Good. Because what they're saying is we can put our games on the market. Let's put Halo on Steam. Are you kidding me? Halo is playable on PC now because this is the new Xbox. Xbox is expanding and making up an idea of saying we don't need to just sell our console. We can sell our games on other platforms. We have our own hardware and we have our own abilities. We have the resources because we're Microsoft, but we know that it's smarter to be pro-consumer and expand. Xbox isn't just your console, on your entertainment system anymore. Xbox is a brand. They've evolved. And I think that is the right way to go in this business. Because it's only going to get crazier. It's only going to get worse. And we're like, especially with gaming, it is all about separating you from your money. It's all about consistently just taking from you. But I think Xbox is doing it in the right way. They're continuing to telling you, hey, put faith in us. We might not have had the console that you wanted. That's okay, but do you have a PC? We can still embrace these games. And that's good for developers because that still means on the back end they can still make money and they can still get their game out there and have people embrace them. I don't see any way to look at what Phil Spencer and his team has done at Xbox as a bad thing. You can mock them because it's the PS4. You can mock them because they haven't made... They're putting their games on PC now. They're putting Cuphead on the Switch. Mock them all you want. They're still making money. I said it already, and I'll say it again. Project Scarlet, that is my next console. Because Xbox unabashedly, unequivocally has put their faith in me, so I'm putting my faith in them. Because they say, we respect that you bought this product. We respect that you took this time. Here's our way of giving back. Yes, I'm giving them money. Obviously, it's their freaking business. But they're also saying, thank you for your $10 a month for Game Pass. Here's all the things you can do. Oh, by the way, do you not have money for $60? You do not have $60 to pay for Gears 5? That's okay. Play it on Game Pass. And yes, Crackdown was garbage. Guess what? I didn't have to pay for it. I could have paid it on Game Pass. Technically, I'm still paying for it, but I'm not paying $60. One more thing I want to talk about with what Xbox is doing, and it was announced at E3. I thought it was kind of obvious. I'm kind of surprised it took them this long, but there is the new edition of Game Pass Ultimate. You, at this point, you know what it is. If you don't, it is essentially taking your Xbox Live Gold subscription, what word is that? Subscription, combining that with Xbox Game Pass for $15, which for me saves me, because I'm an idiot. I do the monthly subscription for Xbox Live Gold. That saves me $60 a year because that's $5 a month. I don't have to pay for it. And it's saying, look, all these games you can play with your friends. And if you have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which, wow, that was a fun sentence to say. If you have that, you can get the Ultimate Edition of Gears 5. So you get all this bonus content and access to it. You can play it early. You can play games that you probably never would have played. Think of the indie developers. For those who are kind of, honestly, if you don't know anything about gaming and you've stuck with me this long, I'm impressed. But indie developers, a game like Void Bastards that I was playing, probably would have never played it. But it's on Game Pass, so a game that I was interested in, I got to play it. The Outer Wilds, I think, is doing great right now. People are talking about that game and building buzz around that game because it's on Game Pass. And I'm sure you talk to any indie developer out there, they just want people to play their games, and they just want exposure, and they're getting that with the Game Pass. These are usually games that I probably wouldn't pick up unless they were on some sort of crazy sale. And Games Pass is giving everybody a chance to play their game. Well, I'm going to pay for it, obviously, but it's giving these indie developers a voice and a way to engage with an audience that they might not have gotten before. And that is the future. So if you've taken anything from this, me rambling about this, it's that Microsoft and Xbox did something that a lot of companies should think about, where they were beaten by their competition. And by the way, they still, like, the Xbox One has still sold fairly well. It just, nobody is going to do PS4 numbers. But instead of doubling down and staying in the same direction, they took risks. They tried things differently. You know, it's a cliche that competition makes you a better company, makes you better in any way. It did. I mean, Xbox very easily could not have done this stuff. And also, I want to address this too. People that complain about Forza, Gears, Halo being in other conferences because those are their most popular franchises. And when they try to do something new, people don't play them or care about them. Or they're probably not ready, like Crackdown 3 and Sea of Thieves. But with Game Pass, now we have more of an option. This is another thing. This is a little bit of a weird, it's not necessarily a segue, but diversion here. The Outer Worlds, the game made by Obsidian, which, yes, is going to be on PS4, but you have to pay $60 on PS4. If you got Game Pass, you get that day one. And yes, Double Fine still has games coming, still has Psychonauts 2 coming to PS4 because of the way the deals work. I understand those games are still coming to PS4. We Happy Few is Compulsion Games, that's what I was thinking of. We Happy Few, yes, of course, it's on PS4. But when you pay $60 for those games, I'm only paying $15. Xbox is pro gamer. Xbox is pro consumer. and Xbox is the future, and the future looks very, very, very bright. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Jake Williams Show. I know it's gaming oriented. I think this is the last time I'm going to be talking about games, other than on the underachievers stuff. Man, woof, what a week! I love E3, but man, it could be exhausting. But I'm very excited for the future of Xbox, and I want to know: are you guys excited about the future of Xbox? Am I crazy, or am I onto something? Do you really think they're as consumer friendly as I think they are? Let me know. I want to hear you guys' feedback. And by the way, I still love Sony. Don't act like I'm not going to try and get my hands on Spider-Man, the next Spider-Man game, or the next God of War game. That's silly. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that Xbox is doing a lot of great things, and they definitely need to be commended for what they're trying to do. They're pro-consumer, and I think that's amazing. And I think Phil Spencer has done an amazing job. You can follow Loud and Opinionated on Facebook. Loud and Opinionated. You can follow us. Oh, man, I'm flubbing it up. You can also follow on Twitter at Loud Opinionated, and also on Instagram, Loud and Opinionated Brand. You can even follow me. I'll even throw this out here. I rarely do this. You can even follow me on Twitter and Instagram at a lumberjake on both of those. If you really can't get enough of me rambling, you want to look at my content. There you go. Thank you so much for listening. The episode Remembering My Dad is probably not going to be coming out on Father's Day. I'll probably just do it the day after. Might be a little bit later because I'm heading out of town. I'll be in Colorado this weekend. Very excited. I'm going to see some old friends. And after this long week of E3, I kind of need some time off. So I'm very excited about it. In the meantime, while you're waiting for the next episode, maybe you're playing your Xbox. Maybe you're playing some Gears. Hopefully you are. Support them. Support PlayStation 2. Let's not be that guy. Whatever you're doing, just remember, be loud and be proud.